Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to chat MDS 4. A lot of you have asked if I would do another video on MDS, and I was waiting for Two Canoes to release MDS 4. What do we gain with it, MDS 4? We gain Apple Silicon support. We can wipe an Apple Silicon device and reset it up with MDS. That'll be in the next video of showing you how to use an automaton to wipe an Apple Silicon MacBook Air and then set it all back up. We can also go through the process of wiping a Apple Business Manager enrolled device with MDS, and then what it looks like as Apple Business Manager kicks in and starts functioning on the device. So let's jump into MDS 4 and go through the settings, see what changed, see what didn't, and set up a workflow that we can then use on our coming devices. So this is the first thing you see when you bring up MDS, which is the general page. It's telling you where you can download Imager. Imager is needed to start the workflows, run the workflows when you're resetting a device, your temporary folder, and disk image volume name. You are welcome to change any of these. Honestly, I don't change anything. There's no point. Two Canoes has this set up in a great way, so there's no point to tweak anything here. Next is security. And if you're going to go ahead and use Monkey, which we'll get to, but if you're going to use Monkey or Monkey Report, I would suggest creating a self-signed certificate, or even better, using Let's Encrypt to allow your machine, especially if you're using the machine running MDS to be your Monkey machine or your Monkey server, get a certificate so that way you can run it over secure SSL. That's basically what this page is. You can click on the question mark here and it will let you know what's going on. I have a video on setting up Monkey in Google Cloud. I think I also have one for AWS. I'd suggest going that route. Allow them to deal with your certificates and just point your Monkey clients to your AWS S3 bucket or your Google Cloud bucket. It's an option here, and it's free, so use it as you will. But again, this is your security section. Another piece I don't use MDS to its full potential. I use it for none of the preferences. I use it for its workflows. The workflows are fantastic. They allow me to prep a device and basically just get through the start process and walk away, allow the device to set up itself. So we'll get there. Packages, if you're creating packages that aren't, say, your bare bones Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Microsoft Office, anything that needs to be signed that hasn't been signed by the developer, this is where you can allow MDS to sign it with your developer ID. I'm not going to dig into what it takes to get that developer ID or any of that sort of stuff. If you know you need it, you'll know. Feel free to reach out to me. We can certainly chat on why you might need it any more so, or how you can go about getting it. I'd be happy to help with that. Syncing, if you've got multiple machines, even in your office or possibly in your business that you want to all set up devices the same way, you can point to a specific server, whatever you have, and then sync MDS across multiple devices. So it works great. I did it between a Mac Mini and this machine here. Like I said, it works great. So if you need to keep multiple MDS machines in sync so you can set up multiple drives or multiple disk images, this is the way to do that. Next is workflows, and I have a few here. We'll go through creating one. So to create one, you hit the plus button and you can name it whatever you like. So we'll just name it test. we'll have Chrome, Firefox, and VLC. And then, I mean, you can explain anything else you want in here. You can also pick your model identifiers if for some reason you know this isn't going to work on an older version, an older MacBook Pro. Say you're installing Big Sur and it's an older MacBook Pro or MacBook Air. Throw the ones that work in here, and then it won't show up for the ones that don't work. So we can then jump to install Mac OS. You can either get a actual Mac OS installer, which I don't even know that I have. I don't have one. So you would have to get a local one, and then, or you can use a Mac OS installer disk image, which you can go ahead and download from MDS. We'll get to that point. But this is where you would specify what that disk image is. And you can then select that radial button and give it its URL. This is for a network drive. I'm sorry. This is for if you've got it quote unquote net booted. That's where where MDS would point to a disk image you have out on a network and pull that disk image down. You can then do erase and install and rename the volume. And then after installing macOS and packages, you can either restart or shut down. The other option is to erase volume and restore from a disk image. So you could use like AutoDMG to create a installer disk image. Again, I'm not going to go through that right now, but you can then select that disk image or have a URL for it, or not install macOS at all. That's also an option. We'll leave it as install. Well, we'll leave it as do not install because I don't have an installer right now. Resources. This is where you'd specify your packages. So if I wanted to install Chrome, this is where I can then select a folder that has, say, Chrome, Firefox, and VLC in it. And it would then put that on the flash drive or hard drive or disk image for setup. Next is scripts. If you wanted to make the bad move, but to get the latest Chrome and curl it down, you could in theory do it here. I don't suggest it. It's not a safe and secure way to install Chrome, but it is an option. If you have other scripts you want to edit, preference files, that sort of stuff, this is where you can do that and write your scripts and then select your scripts folder. Same with profiles, though with Big Sur and now Monterey. Installing profiles outside of an MDM is a bad idea, is possibly not even supported. And so I don't suggest installing profiles this way. I do suggest using an MDM along with MDS. You can even use micro MDM within MDS. If you are a business and you have not signed up for Apple Business Manager yet, and you are in a country that does support Apple Business Manager, contact your Apple rep or your Apple reseller. Figure out a way to start the process to get into Apple Business Manager. You're only hurting yourself moving forward. I'll get off my soapbox now. Again, reboot after installing or wait for Setup Assistant to complete before rebooting. Certainly an option. And then again, after running workflow, you can either restart or shut down. We're just going to get rid of all of this. I'm not adding anything today. Here's where you can create your user accounts. And so you can have, say you need local admin accounts that you want all the same password on every device. This is where you would create that and then allow the user to be, to administer the computer, and you can then have it hidden. So this is, you can set an SSH key. So you could have SSH turned on and authenticate to all of your client devices if there is that need. You can define the default shell in Big Sur, and I even think in Catalina, they flipped to ZSH instead of Bash. I suggest moving forward with ZSH. Bash is still technically on the Mac, but Apple has said they are moving away from Bash and using ZSH. There's really not much of a difference, some syntax, but keep an eye out on Mac admins' websites. You'll get the gist for ZSH scripts. It doesn't take long to catch on. Next, we have options where you can then tell the Mac to join Wi-Fi. You can set the computer name, and the question mark here gives you different variables, which right now is just serial number. But what I like to do is have it prompt. So that way I don't have to, I like to name my devices, company name dash device dash maybe the username or something like that. That's just my preference. That's how I've been an admin and how it made sense to me. But if you're in a school and that wouldn't be helpful, you could certainly do, say, this workflow is for your high school, HS dash, A for air dash, and then do the serial number, and check it out to the device. That would work. But you can prompt, or you can then set a serial number like that. This is to trust the server certificate that we could set in the security tab in preferences. If you haven't set one, there's no point in checking that box. You can also skip the entire setup assistant while enabling location services, which is kind of a new feature. Previously, that was a user set preference. Now the admin can set that, because if it's a company-owned device, you want to know where that device is. You can also skip user privacy and location setup assistant. This is where we can enable the SSH feature that I was talking about earlier with the local admin user, and then we can also allow admins to screen share. I don't suggest disabling SIP. It is Intel only, as it said here, but that's a can of worms we shouldn't talk about. Just don't disable SIP unless you know you need to for some specific piece of software. And I suggest looking for a new specific piece of software ASAP, because that's just a bad idea. Next is Monkey, where you can configure the client and throw the Monkey repo URL. I want to say this drops a profile for Monkey. It doesn't just set up the settings. But I haven't done it here because I have a Monkey package that I drop in my packages folder when I set things up. And you can set variables and all of these different things here. So if we went into edit, you can set up variables if you've got different things that you want to prompt for and set. That's all available to you. It is customizable. So that is the workflows. And we'll jump to the remote log viewer. If you were to run MDS and have all your devices phone home, this is where you could then see all of your logs. Here's micro MDM. This is if you don't have another MDM, you can use this. It is technically free, though I think to get the push certificate or the MDM profile, you are required to pay 2 canoes. I haven't set it up. I've used Mosel, I've used Jamf Now, I've used Simple MDM, I've used Jamf Pro. Those are all options, probably better MDMs to use to go along with this. This is an option. This is very, very cheap. And I have not played with it enough. So if you want a video on micro MDM and me setting it up, I'd be happy to do that and we can look into it. But right now, at this point, I haven't touched it. So the web service, since Apple killed server on the Mac, or at least destroyed it, whatever was in there is now worthless. Don't spend the money on Apple's server app. There's nothing there. But this web service is an Apache web server for Monkey and Monkey Report, as it says in here. You could also technically run other websites out of this web service. But right now I'm not going to go through that. We can certainly set up a Monkey server or a different website if that's something you want to see. And then here's Monkey. It's mad at me because my Google Cloud version is running an old version of Monkey right now. I need to update it. But this is where you could create your Monkey repo and start to manage Monkey out of MDS. Basically, it's installing Monkey admin for you and getting you set up with a bare bones Monkey instance. And then Monkey report is where you can inventory your fleet. If you don't have a Jamf Pro, if you don't have an MDM of other than a micro MDM, micro MDM is not going to by default give you an inventory of your devices. Monkey report will. It'll let you know what applications are there. It does have to be used along with Monkey, but it's a great piece of technology if you're looking for free and open source. I don't know how long it'll last, but as of Big Sur, it still functions. I'm assuming Monterey it will continue to function, but I haven't read anything from the creators of Monkey or Monkey Report on whether or not it will run on Monterey. So we're still up in the air on that one. We'll jump into automatons when I start setting up my Mac, but essentially we can use this to automate the run through of a workflow for Mac OS on Intel or Apple Silicon. So we'll plug in one of my automatons and we'll set it up in the next video. This is where we can create a bootable Mac OS installer. If I had a target volume, an external hard drive, or big enough flash drive, this is where you can do that. It is very helpful. Download Mac OS. If you don't have a version of, the current version of Mac OS, or you're looking for an older version, you can go all the way as far back as 10.13.5 High Sierra. So if you are in need of that, if you've got a device that doesn't support anything higher than that, here's where you can get it. You also have access to the developer seed. So we'll see, there's your Mac OS 12 beta. If you were to want to download that, it is only out for developers, but thank you, MDS, we can gain access to Mac OS 12. Or there's a customer seed. These are just different seeds. These are different locations where Apple gives access to their downloaders, or their downloads, sorry. And then there's the public seed. And yeah, we don't have access to Mac OS 12 Monterey yet as the public, but if you were a developer, you could download it. Or if you have MDS, you can download it. So that's MDS walkthrough. We will use MDS in the next video, part 2, to set up an Apple Silicon machine and an Intel machine using the exact same workflow. So we'll get 2 devices that look exactly the same. And then in part 3, we will set up a device that's tied to Apple Business Manager and see what happens when we use MDS and then allow a workflow to finish it out with an MDM. If you've liked this video, please consider subscribing, hitting that like button and the bell icon for notifications on when I post more content. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.